Good evening from New York. This is Thursday, November 18th, 719 days until the 2012 presidential elections, 7 days until Thanksgiving and the start of the Christmas season, and just 12 days until unemployment insurance begins to expire for Americans who've been out of work for more than 6 months. 800,000 Americans will stop receiving unemployment insurance benefits in the first week of December alone. Another 1.2 million over the remainder of that month, 3 million more during January and February. 5 million Americans, plus spouses, children, and other dependents on the line if Congress does not renew these benefits, which would cost for 1 year about $65 billion, approximately the same as the 1 year cost of renewing the Bush tax cuts on household incomes above $250,000. But on our fifth story tonight, when Democrats brought just a 3-month extension of unemployment benefits to the floor today, the party that supports an infinite extension of Bush tax cuts for the rich said no. Republican Congressman Charles Boustany of Louisiana said his party does in fact want to extend benefits to the unemployed. You will note, however, that Mr. Boustany, who is worth $500,000, follows his expression of empathy with a but.
Both Republicans and Democrats support helping the long-term unemployed. The chairman of the committee expressed a great deal of empathy in his opening statement. We share that empathy. Every one of our congressional offices has dealt with families dealing with this tragedy of unemployment. But
what? 10,800 unemployed Louisianans will lose their benefits next month unless Congress does something this month. And Congress is gone next week for Thanksgiving. So what is the but that forced Republicans to block these benefits right before Christmas? As Congressman Boustany, who wanted to be a lord, explained, the party that is hell-bent on borrowing more than $700 billion to give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires knows it would be wrong to borrow $12 billion to get unemployed middle-class Americans through Christmas.
The American people know it isn't right to add these costs to our already overdrawn national credit card. We all want to help those in need. But the American people also know someone has to pay when government spends money, and it shouldn't be our children and our grandchildren.
In fact, extending unemployment benefits during a recession has been a bipartisan tradition for the last half-century, if only because the cost of doing so does not get passed on to the next generation. Why not? Because unemployment benefits stimulate economic growth, helping to keep the middle class, 2 out of 3 of America's unemployed, in the middle class. And they fuel spending by the jobless, literally creating jobs. The Economic Policy Institute estimating that, depending on the length of it, extending these benefits could generate the equivalent of more than 700,000 full-time jobs. So why did most representatives vote against it today? They didn't. Democrats brought it to the floor under a procedure known as suspension of the rules, the only way to hold a straight up or down vote without Republicans adding bill-killing amendments to it. This requires a 2/3 majority vote to pass. 258 voted for it, including 21 Republicans. 154 voted against it, including 11 Democrats. So it didn't pass. And just for context, Mr. Boustany is not by a long shot the richest member of Congress to have voted against benefits for the jobless. Coming up, we'll tell you how many of them became millionaires and got richer even while the nation suffered through the Great Recession. Right now, however, we're joined by one of those 800,000 people identified by the Huffington Post as being about to lose their unemployment insurance benefits come December 1st. Jean Reinman of Greenville, South Carolina. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you for letting me come on, Keith.
Ms. Reinman, you worked in computer-aided design, and then the company for which you worked began to lay people off, and you've been out since May 1st of 2009. How have you been getting by since then?
Primarily, I had some savings, and I had, some money in 401k, and I paid my house payment with that. And the unemployment benefits I've received have been, they've been pretty much paying everything else,
The Democrats are saying that they plan to take another shot at passing this in the final 2 days of November after they come back from the Thanksgiving break. What happens if what happens today or happened today happens again if the Republicans block this measure? How do you get through Christmas?
I have no idea. I have no idea. And I'm not even as bad off as some people are. I really feel sorry for people with children. I mean, what do you tell your kids, that you can't afford to have Santa Claus come?
Do you have any idea what happens next year? I mean, presumably at some point the savings is gone. What goes next? Is there a point which you have there's no mortgage payment possible?
Well, actually, I've been making the mortgage payment out of the unemployment. The savings are pretty much gone. So I'm in a pretty, precarious situation right now, and I'm not even as bad off as a lot of people are.
The Republicans have been arguing that unemployment benefits give people incentive not to find work, and the congressman in your own district, Bob Inglis, voted against these benefits. You have the sort of national stage here, at least a small corner of it. What's your response to them and to Mr. Inglis and the argument that we shouldn't and can't borrow money to pay for these benefits?
My unemployment benefits are just very, maybe a third of what I earned when I was working. I don't really like living like this. Well, I'm sorry.
No.
I don't like living like this. I think it's terrible that this gets kicked around all the time. I mean, what we've been through the last few months, you go out and you start looking at the jobs and you'll see that there's really not much demand for anything. People think, well, I'll go in the medical field and that way I'll be guaranteed a job. Well, I have a cousin who's a registered nurse who got laid off. People aren't going to the doctor like they did when they had health insurance. Is
this, to your mind, the country that you thought you were living in, where the argument is being made? Go ahead.
Absolutely not. I mean, I can't believe that, that there's even any discussion about, renewing unemployment benefits when there's so many people out of work. And I think there's, 8.5 million who are drawing unemployment right now? And that doesn't even include the, the 99ers, the people who fell off the rolls a while back. Just because they're not drawing unemployment doesn't mean that they have jobs.
And 5 million more by the 1st of March fall off the rolls unless something is done about this. And we know where the two parties stand on it. Gene Reinman of Greenville, South Carolina. We know it's to some degree an invasion, and we are deeply indebted to you for your time and being honest about this situation with us. And I guess all we can do at this point here is wish you luck going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that.